East African anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Kenyatta University anthem.
Freedom, fountain of knowledge, well of learning experience, a bubbling spring of wisdom, a promise of better tomorrow. Kenyatta, oh Kenyatta, our nation's star. Kenyatta, our nation's pride, University of our time. Kenyatta, oh Kenyatta, our nation's star. Kenyatta, our nation's pride, University of our time.
While still standing, I will invite our chaplain, Reverend Esther Wainaina, together with our Imam, Dr. Sheikh Abdullahi Bundit, to lead us in opening prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty and everlasting God, we gather before you today with gratitude and reverence, acknowledging that all wisdom and understanding comes from you. As your word declares in Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. We thank you for this opportunity to engage in a public lecture that seeks to reimagine the future of higher education in Kenya for a sustainable learning ecosystem. Father, we commit this session into your hands. We ask for your guidance upon Professor Raphael Munavu, our distinguished speaker, that he may impart knowledge with clarity, insight, and vision. May his words inspire transformation in our institutions and education policies. As you remind us in James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. Grant him the wisdom to challenge, enlighten, and empower us today. We lift up before you our dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Washeke Wanjohi, the leadership of Kenyatta University, and all stakeholders in higher education. May you equip them with wisdom and strength to lead with integrity, innovation, and a commitment to excellence. As an institution of learning, may we cultivate an environment where knowledge flourishes, where research transforms society, and where education uplifts the lives of all people. Lord, we pray for the students, faculty, and policy makers present today. May this public lecture be a catalyst for critical thinking, meaningful dialogue, and actionable solutions that will shape the future of education in Kenya. As we navigate the evolving landscape of academia, grant us resilience, adaptability, and a shared vision that ensures no one is left behind. May your spirit be present in our discussions today. May this lecture inspire a commitment to equity, sustainability, and ethical leadership in education. As Psalm 90:17 declares, may the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, Lord, establish the work of our hands. Bless this moment, bless this gathering, and may all that we do today be for the glory of your name and the advancement of knowledge for the good of society. This is a prayer of faith through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Let's continue praying. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious, Ya Allah. Praise be to him, our Lord, the Lord of the universe, the master of our day. Ya Allah, we ask for your wisdom as we begin this meeting. We welcome your presence among us. Guide us to the right way. May you unite our hearts and minds in common purpose. Guide our discussions and decisions that they may honor you and serve our shared goals. Ya Rab, this is the holy month of Ramadan ending. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Lord, you are the most forgiving and you love to forgive, so forgive us. Ya Wadud, we fast for you. We believe in you and we put our trust in you and we break our fast with your sustenance. Ya Rab, we humbly ask for your favor and blessings in our pursuit of success and prosperity. Power out your grace upon us and open doors of opportunities. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Amen.
Thank you very much. We may take our seats. Our chief guest today, Professor Raphael Munavu, the former chairman of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform in Kenya, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Washeke Wanjohi, members of management present, members of Senate present, members of the Public Lecture Planning Committee, members of staff, academic and non-academic present, our students here at Kenyatta University, our guests here physically and online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. It is indeed a wonderful day to have a public lecture under the theme, Reimagining the Future of Higher Education in Kenya for a Sustainable Learning Ecosystem. And we are happy that you're all here with us. And together with everyone who's here online as well, we have a total of 188 people online currently. And so we would like to welcome each and every one of you to this public lecture. It is now my honor to welcome Professor Caroline Thurua, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Outreach, to make some welcoming remarks and welcome our VC to make her remarks as well. Karibu DVC.
Wanjohi, members of the university management present, distinguished guests from other institutions present and online, members of the University Senate, members of academic, teaching and non-teaching staff of Kenyatta University, postgraduate and undergraduate students, esteemed visitors and friends of the university. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this significant public lecture organized under the theme, Reimagining the Future of Higher Education in Kenya for a Sustainable Learning Ecosystem. On behalf of the entire university community, I thank you for honoring our invitation and gracing this important occasion with your presence. We are deeply honored to host Professor Raphael Munavu, a revered scholar and education reformist whose legacy continues to shape the academic and policy landscape in Kenya. The presence of distinguished guests from other institutions across Kenya further enriches this gathering. We thank you sincerely for joining us. We also acknowledge with appreciation the presence of all our staff who remain the heartbeat of our academic mission, and our vibrant students, both undergraduate and postgraduate, who are the future we are reimagining. Allow me to share a quote by Nelson Mandela, which captures the essence of why we are gathered here today. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Indeed, the kind of education we envision and the reforms we implement today will shape the kind of world we live in tomorrow. I encourage all of us to engage deeply, to ask questions, and to think beyond boundaries as we listen to the reflections and insights of our distinguished speaker. At this point, it is now my pleasure to invite our Vice Chancellor, Professor Washeke Wanjohi, to make her remarks. Welcome, Professor Washeke.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Rua, the DVC Research, Innovation and Outreach. I want to acknowledge our chief guest, Professor Raphael Munavu. I also want to acknowledge very many CEOs who are online. We have my counterpart, Professor Dr. Benedict Mutua, the Vice Chancellor, Technical University of Kenya. I also want to acknowledge the Chief Executive Officer, the Commission for University Education, Professor Mike Kuria. I also want to acknowledge the representative of the Vice Chancellor, Multimedia University. She is represented here by Dr. Engineer Livingstone M.H. Gore, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, Research and Innovation in that university. I also want to acknowledge the Chief Executive Officer, National Research Fund, that is my friend and the CEO of that organization, Professor Dixon Adara. I also want to appreciate my counterpart from the University of Nairobi, Professor Margaret Hutchinson, represented in this public lecture by her deputy, Engineer Professor Ayub Gitao, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs in that university. I also want to acknowledge that from the same university, we also have the academic registrar. I also want to acknowledge my members of management and also the senators who are here and our distinguished staff and other distinguished guests, both physically here and also online, and our students and all the other in attendance of this very important public lecture. I want to say good morning and welcome again for this public lecture. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this significant public lecture. Today's gathering is a reflection of our unwavering commitment to intellectual discourse and thought leadership as we explore the future of higher education in Kenya under the theme, Reimagining the Future of Higher Education in Kenya for a Sustainable Learning Ecosystem. I would like to say that education has been and will continue to be the foundation upon which societies build their progress. It is the key that unlocks human potential, drives economic transformation, and fosters cultural and intellectual advancement. And as John Dewey once observed, education is not preparation for life, but education is life itself. However, we are cognizant that education must evolve to meet the demands of a rapidly changing world. Our universities, therefore, must become hubs of innovation, hubs of adaptability, hubs of sustainability, and hubs that project ascending hope. Today's lecture presents us with an invaluable opportunity to critically examine the current challenges facing higher education, and more importantly, reimagine pathways towards a sustainable, inclusive, and technologically empowered ecosystem. At Kenyatta University, our chief guest and ladies and gentlemen, we do recognize that for higher education to contribute meaningfully to Kenya's economic, social, and cultural growth, we must critically address some of the challenges that continue to hinder our institutions from reaching their full potential. This includes financing higher education and turning knowledge into practice. I take cognizance, our chief guest, that we have reintroduced public lectures because they play a very, very important role as we engage in the intellectual discourse with the public and with the academia and all others in the industry. So this is the second series of our public lecture. We introduced it in October 2024, where we were privileged to have Ambassador Dr. Mudaura give the first public lecture. I also would like to say that indeed, a university is more than just a place for acquiring knowledge. It's a place for innovation, problem solving, economic transformation. However, financial constraints continue to hamper the ability of institutions to support research that informs development, incubation, and commercialization of research products and services. We therefore must rethink how knowledge is translated into practice, ensuring that research findings do not merely remain within the walls of the academia, but actively contribute to Kenya's industrial and economic development. Further, the sustainability of our universities hinges on financial prudence, diversification of income streams, entrepreneurial thinking, among many other interventions which our chief guests we are already putting in place. As public universities, we must endeavor to move beyond reliance on government funding by fostering strong industry partnerships, encouraging commercial research, and developing financial retreat graduates who can contribute to the wealth creation as per our vision and mission. And because truly, our chief guest, ladies and gentlemen, this is not my day, I really would like to spare the rest part of my speech so that we can have maximum engagement with our chief guest. And so we are very, very privileged to have our chief guest accept our invitation. And we are therefore privileged to have this conversation, this public lecture offered by none other than Professor Raphael Munavu, a scholar, a scientist, a policy expert, whose contributions to education, science, national development have left indelible mark on Kenya's higher education landscape. Professor Munavu's career is a testament to the power of knowledge and leadership in shaping national and institutional progress. He is a distinguished professor emeritus in the Department of Chemistry at the University of Nairobi and has served in key leadership roles such as Vice Chancellor, Moi University, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration and Finance, as well as founding principal of Laikipia College of Egerton University, that all these have influenced education reform, scientific research, and policy development in Kenya. Of course, many of us know him as the chairman of Technopolis Development Authority, where he plays a critical role in steering Kenya's journey towards becoming a knowledge-based hub. He is also currently the director, the chairman of the NACOSTI, and he has also served in very, very many other leadership positions. And I want to single out the Kenya National Academy of Sciences, where I had the privilege of serving with him in the governing council of the academy. And though he has exited, we have a new president. I serve there now as the vice president. And he has also served as a chair of the Kenya National Examination Council. He has also served as a chairman of council of the Southeastern University, then as SECU, currently SECU, and he has also served as a commissioner at the Constitutional Commission on Revenue Allocation. He has also served as the Chancellor of Laikipia University. And of course, we all know that in 2022, he was appointed by the president to chair the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms in Kenya, where his expertise helped shape national policies that will define the future of Kenya's education system. And the country is benefiting from the deliberations of that report, and I'm sure we'll be privileged to benefit from some of those through his presentation. His contributions to higher education policy are further evident in his work with the Presidential Task Force on Public Universities and Universities Education Strategies in Kenya. And beyond Kenya, I want to say Professor Munavu has also had great impact, which has been felt across Africa, as demonstrated by his role as the Honorary Secretary of the Association of Faculties of Science in African universities. In academia, he has made significant contribution through extensive research and mentorship, shaping the next generation of scholars. His work has focused on intersection of higher education, chemistry, science, technology, and innovation, with a strong emphasis on their role in socio-economic development. Professor Munavu's legacy is one of the unwavering commitment in academic excellence, policy development, national transformation. His insights into higher education reform, innovation, and sustainability make him the perfect speaker to help us reimagine the future of our higher education in Kenya today. It is now my distinguished honor and privilege to invite our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Raphael Munavu, EBS, to deliver his public address today. Welcome. You can still do it from.
No, let me stand.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Karibu sana. Karibu.
Yeah, thank you very much. The Vice Chancellor, Acting Vice Chancellor of Kenyatta University, the deputies, members of staff, and really the whole family of Kenyatta University, which represents a sector of what I think in this presentation, we are using the word ecosystem of higher education. I feel greatly honored and privileged to stand before you, to engage with you, to reflect with you on matters touching on the future of higher education in Kenya. To reflect on how universities and higher education broadly are so important in defining the future, not only of the sector itself, but the future of all of us, the future of our country, our region, but the future of humanity. And what you will allow me to do is I will give you my views, but it is best to engage. And the views I will give you will be really what I normally call helicopter view, the broader view. When we talk about the future of higher education, we should correlate it with what future do we want for our country? What future do we want for our great-grandchildren? What future do we need, do we want the world to be, to look like, years to come? Once we define that future, which we imagine for our country, then we ask ourselves, what is the role of universities in ensuring that we achieve that future? Then we can ask ourselves, so if the universities and higher education broadly need to be structured and formulated in that format, then how do we then transform our system to make it sustainable? So basically, that is the way I'm going to address my discussion with you. I'm not going to be long. I have some projections, if you don't mind. If you can do it for me, then I can be able to look at it. So what I will do is I will look at what is it that we as human beings, as societies and communities, as nations, what is it that we want to be? Go to the next one. So I will look at the concept of socioeconomic development and what challenges do we face and how do we look at a community and a nation and say this nation seems to be advanced, this one seems not to be advanced, etc. And the most important one is that bullet there, number 5, on university education as a key driver of socio-economic development, and the context in which we implement policies and define policies on the way forward, the economy and so on. Mainly, I think it's important for us to understand that. So I will share with you a few constitutional provisions, and then I will end with my reimaginations. But this will not be mine. I will ask all of us to share these imaginations. Ordinarily, I would say, then we will have a resolution or a declaration of intent. But that will come later. We may decide to say it or not to say it. Please, when we talk about development, in any context, what do we really mean? And in my view, it is how we transform people's lives positively. We transform people's lives to make them more livable. By the end of the day, we also touch people's hearts. So we make human beings happier. That is how you make sustainable development. People achieve the goods they need, whether it's clothing, whether it's food, whether it is housing. So you need goods, but you also need services. You need education, you need transport, you need this and so on. So when you have these, and then you ensure that you provide this within the context of a sustainable environment where you are not impacting negatively on the environment, on climate and so forth, then you are talking about sustainable development. One of the things that I would like for you to reflect on, not now, but as you move on back to do your activities within the university and outside the university ecosystem, is, and that to me is very fundamental, why do some nations develop? And when we talk about a developed nation, we say it is wealthy, it has access to goods and services, and then others are not developed. They remain poor. The terminologies that economists sometimes use is the cycle of poverty. Every generation that comes is poverty. They grew in poverty, they live in poverty, they have future generations in poverty, and so forth. And in my view, the answer to the above is anchored on two analytics. Number one, you analyze what is this thing we call underdevelopment, and also we reflect on then how do you bring it forward. Next. We want to improve people's quality of life. We need human beings and communities to have access to the goods and services, whether it's food, water, quality water, and so forth. That to me is extremely important. One internationally recognized way of measuring the rate or the level of human development is the Human Development Index. And it really looks at three key issues. One is the state of health. How healthy are the citizens? Can they walk 10 kilometers and back and forth per day? How healthy are they? How long, on the average, is their life expectancy at birth? Can they live up to 100 years on the average? Or 30 or 40? That is a measure. Then, and this to me is the most important, is what capacity do these citizens have to look at the resources that they have and take them and transform them into the goods which they need. That is anchored in education, the level of education, the amount of, on the average, the number of years that an average citizen will spend being educated. That to me is extremely important. And finally, the issue of economics, you can't ignore it. Whatever terminology you use, I think there are economics. I see a lot of people who appear to be economics and businessmen in our group here. So it is a question of income. Some people call it domestic, what do you call it? GDP. What do you call it? Come on, relax. Domestic? Very good. Yeah, I saw some people are beginning to go to sleep. That's why I'm waking them up. But there is something they also check, they call per capita. I wish we had a Kiswahili word, per capita, per person. So you look at the bigger picture, you say this is the amount of money in shillings that Kenya produces, then you divide it with all of us. We say if we were to share this amongst ourselves, how much of us would we put in our pockets? They call it domestic, continue, per capita, per person. There is another one which I always like, but I heard it many years ago. And I've never understood why they call it the Gini coefficient. Have you heard of that? Okay, you don't. If you look at the poor, and you put them down here, and you look at the rich, and you put them here, citizens, if the distance between the poor and the rich is too big, that difference is called the Gini coefficient. And it tells how comfortable is that country. If you are a country where the poor are here and the rich are here, that big, and then you have another country where the rich and the poor are just like this, low Gini coefficient, in which country do you think there is a lot of happiness? Exactly. Okay? So that has to do with income status. And finally, knowledge, technology, innovation, commercialization, business, enterprising, enabling environment, all those are extremely important for sustainable development. Next. I think I will not spend a lot of time here, but just to know that sustainable development process leads to alleviation of poverty, you create wealth, you generate needed goods and services, and most important, and this now I will define, you improve the quality of life of the people. Let's do it. And what I want to do is I just want to give you some figures to show you that internationally, when you rank countries on the level of HDI, Human Development Index, and you look at their university system or education system, there is a correlation. So a country that has got high development index also has high quality of education. The argument which I would like us to leave here with is that if we want to move forward, if we want to attain goals, then one of the key areas that we should focus on is the issue of education, higher education, skills development, and all of that, if we want this country to move forward. Next. I think, let me not spend time on this. Go next. I just want to look at the, go to the next one. Okay, this one. Reliable development is anchored on higher investment in human capital, in knowledge output, in innovations, and in commercialization. This is very important. And this is driven in any country on a vibrant university ecosystem. So we say that countries with robust knowledge generation system, countries that invest a lot of money for people to do research, those are the countries that have got higher development index. They are the countries that we call developed countries. Knowledge generation also enables domestication of a knowledge-driven economic, socio-economic ecosystem. So whatever it is, as a country, as a region, as a continent, if you are asked, where do you think we should invest a lot of our resources if we want to be developed, fully developed, competitive, 20, 30 years down the line? Please don't talk about these policies, nini. It is education. It is human capacity development. It is exploiting our natural resources and protecting them, sequestering them, and adding value. Next. This is the one I was looking at. I was looking for. These are not my figures. These are UNDP. figures, United Nations Development Program. And they develop them every year. And what they do is they take life expectancy, they take education level, the number of years that on the average somebody spends in the university, and then gross national income per capita. They take you those. Over the last few years, I think 3, 4, 5 years, they have changed the education one a little bit, what I am calling here ED. They have changed it a little bit to say, okay, what is the average number of years and so forth, and then they are also talking about other averages. The country with the highest HDI globally is Switzerland. These are 2024 figures. And it is given there as 0.967. The country that is extremely high would have 1. The only figure that you get is 1. The lowest you get is 0. You can get 0. So go next. Singapore, you can see that most of these are up to the USA 0.927. And then life expectancy is the number of years one is expected to live when they are born. So Switzerland, on the average, 84 years. Then you go down, South Korea. Oh yeah, South Korea is good to look at. 84 years, USA 78, China 78, and so forth. Now, when you look at figures like this, it's okay. But now let's go and look at figures. Please keep in mind the HDR, figures in Africa. Next. Look at Mauritius. The rank is at the left. So Mauritius is ranked 72 globally. Botswana, 114. Our beloved country, 146. We are number 146 out of 189, 190 countries. Our HDI is 0.601. Life expectancy, this is average. These are average figures. 64, 62. Education, 11.4 years. This is on the average. What an ordinary person ordinarily would spend in school. Benin, and of course the last country, Niger, we are talking about 0.39, etc. It is also good to look at the GNI, gross national income per capita, and the figures are also given there, and you can see for Kenya we are still struggling with $4.8 thousand per year per person. Just keep this in your mind. The figures that you should focus on is the HDI. Where are we ranked? And if I was to ask you, what should we declare? Where do we want to be by 2050, by whatever? I would say, let's target 0.85. By then, we would say the life expectancy will be slightly over 80. There will be high level of income in our pockets. There will be better health. But most important, there will be more years spent in education. Just go back the previous slide and we just look at the education. Did you see? Norway, close to 19 years in education, average. Singapore, 17. UK, 17, and so forth. Whereas for us, we are talking about 11. So when you look at these figures, it is very clear that as a country, we must focus and refocus on education. Next. This one is for you. Don't try to remember the figures because they could be very confusing. But here, this is how much each country, and again, these are also ranked internationally, how much each country spends to create knowledge. You know, the knowledge, other than 2 multiplied by 2, which I learned way back in 1952. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. But knowledge and what we learn keeps changing, isn't it? It changes, it changes, it changes. And the way that drives change in knowledge is through research. That's how you create new knowledge. So again, countries that invest heavily in creation of new knowledge have also high development index. Look at the number of researchers. For USA, for example, for every 1 million Americans, you have 4,452 researchers. Individuals who are focused on trying to understand nature, trying to understand science, trying to understand cultural issues, create new knowledge for the benefit of all of us. GDP is 3.64 in the US. They spend 3.64 of their national income going to research. Denmark, you can see the charges. Look at Israel. By the way, don't tell me, but just go and check the population of Israel. And then look at how much of the GDP they are spending on research. And I sometimes wonder, sometimes you see some fruits somewhere in places and they are from Israel. And hakuna mvua, hakuna nini, lakini for some strange reason, they have ways in which they can take water from the ocean with a lot of salt and they do desalination and then they water and then they are able to export the apples. Okay? The only apples they don't import in Kenya is the Wambugu apple. Has any of you tasted that apple? Wambugu apple? Hey, you guys, then I need to take you to Nyeri. The South Korea is another one. Look at that. They spend over 5% of their GDP on development of new knowledge. Kenya. Now, for Kenya one, I have to confess and declare interest. Because some places I see figures of 0.4, 0. Whatever, 0. But the highest I saw was 0.6. So I quoted that, and so on. Look at the number of researchers per 1 million citizens, only 169. Those of you, please, in academia, these are figures that we can sit, and Madam VC, we can consult, so that we see if we can, and we can bring on board NRF and NACOSTI and so on, so that we verify these figures. You know, sometimes you get these figures from, Google and so on, but it's good for us to verify these figures. Next. So they spend a lot of money on that. This is just the numbers. And I have mentioned, you have seen them there. If you look at UK, it's a lot. Israel, look at the numbers. Okay? Per million. And then, of course, Kenya. Let's confirm the Nigerian one. The figure seems to be very, very low. But nevertheless, it is there. South Africa is rather high for the African region. So, if I were to give you a tutorial, just a brief one, is what do you think we should do as a country so that within the next 20 years, we lift our level of development to a level that our people are 90% happy and satisfied? Where do we need to increase? It is in this. And universities are the essential drivers of this development because, this you know, it is because they are mandated to generate knowledge, they are mandated to create human capacity, they are mandated to ensure that they promote innovations. I just stopped there. I wanted to add in my presentation that they should also promote enterprises, okay, and support businesses. But I didn't put it because it looks like it's a major challenge for our institutions. But moving forward, it is very important for our universities to know. You don't just generate the knowledge, you don't just do the innovations and keep them under the table. I think in Biblia, I can't remember who it was, somebody was doing some preaching, I think it was a lady, and then she said, you know, you don't light a candle in your bedroom and put it under the bed, or in your sitting room and put it under the table, because it's supposed to give you light, so you put it on top. So that is something that we need to reflect on as universities. Moving forward, we should be asking a university, the VC. So you tell us you have 50 innovations. How many of those have been commercialized? And if you say, I don't know, then too bad. Or if you say only one, then you say fine. But if we go to another university and you ask them, what is your innovation? They look at you, they tell you, crickets. I am making biscuits out of crickets. You know what university that is? Joost. If you take their biscuits, they are fantastic. But they are made of crickets and so forth. They're innovative. And they are making money. And they are giving jobs. So our universities must begin to think like that. They raise the rate of socioeconomic development via reduction of poverty through job creation. That is important. I will just mention before I end my presentation the issue of small enterprises and remind me to tell you about why India is where it is today. Next. We are talking about the role the universities can do, and I think the issue of reduction of poverty has been shared. The bullet 2 is very important, and maybe it is the elephant in the room. Governance of natural resources. We have a lot of natural resources. And if I asked you, when you hear we have natural resources, whether it is stones, whether it is sand, whether it is water, whatever it is, by the way, who owns it? Who owns it? It is you and I. It is the public, and so forth. So who should determine how those natural resources should be used? It is all of us. Okay? If there are benefits, how do we share those benefits? Now, for those of you who may not have done science, let me tell you something that you should take home. There are two types of natural resources that are very crucial. One is called non-renewable. Non-renewable resource is a resource that you use, and then once you use it, it is gone. You can't recover it. Non-renewable resources include things like petrol, coal, cement making, and so on and so forth. Once you use it, that is the end. Now, for you to reflect on, if you have a non-renewable resource here, and then we say, let's make our life comfortable, let's exploit it and use it. So we do it, we use it. My question is this: what happens to our great-grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? So if it is petrol, oil, tumetumia yote, ikakwisha. So what will they do when they are born and they want to use that petrol years to come and we have finished it? Think about it. There is another type of resource, natural resource, which is called renewable. In other words, you can renew it. And that one I don't need to spend time on. Anytime there is rain, we plant maize or whatever it is. And ongwashi, even duma, and so forth. But you know for a fact that next year, God willing, we will also have rain. So you can renewably be able to generate it. One of the things that you need to reflect about is this: that please, and you people will be in positions where you are making decisions on how to move forward, including the VC, your deputies, and your colleagues, is our Constitution says that whatever we have belongs to us, but also it must be shared equitably with our future generations. Equitably with our future generations. So don't just spend without thinking what the future will be. In addition to teaching, research, and community service, universities have, this is my reflection. And this one we can discuss. So we say the universities have three functions: teaching, research, community engagement, or community service. Is there something else that we feel the universities should be doing? In my view, yes. The universities should be driving this economy and make it vibrant of our economy. The universities should ensure they inculcate values into their curricula, value systems, national values, Article 10 of the Constitution. The universities should ensure that we bring our nation together and make it cohesive. That is why, by qualification, the university should be a reflection of the face of Kenya. That is very important. And we all share the same future. Peace and security is extremely important. My challenge to universities as we move forward is we have declarations that are international declarations, like Sustainable Development Goals. Okay? Now, the SDGs, let me tell you, will be achieved. They can be achieved. But in my view, the universities should be the major drivers of this process. So please, KU family, ask yourselves, of the 17 SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which two do you feel that your university should be focusing on? Or which three? And inculcate this within your young people. Next, I'm just about to end. Now, we come to the question of reimagining the future. And this one I will be very quick. I think universities need to integrate innovation and entrepreneurship programs. That to me is very important. There is nothing that says that a university cannot set up an enterprise and so forth. Please ensure that our graduates are able to survive and function in a multicultural environment. How do you achieve this? And let's see if we can inculcate it into our systems. Internships in industry, but also internships in community service programs. That to me is very important, so that our young people will understand the communities in which they live. And finally, promoting internationalization and creating a culture of peace, so that if in Africa, and we can do a tracer study on this and find out, by the way, this can be a very good research project, find out the level of internationalization in our universities in Africa, and what is making some universities have high international students and others low. You may be surprised that it could be how many American young people will want to come to a country where there is no peace. Parents will not allow them, isn't it? But if there is peace, and people are laughing, and they see photographs and so on, and people are coming, tourists and so on, then you have what I call a pull effect. You bring them here. Now, don't quote me. The reason why internationalization is important is in places like America, if you go, you don't pay fees the same as the local person. You pay more. So now if we attract students from South Korea, from India, from everywhere, don't charge them the same amount, okay? But you don't tell them that. You just say, okay, you do this, double the fees, okay? By the way, go and check. Universities in Australia, universities in UK, universities in America are struggling. Not only our universities. Do you know why? Because very few international students are moving in those places. So, because they are offloading, let us unload. Let us enload ourselves and attract students from these places. Let's be peaceful. Let's be a community that everybody wants to relate to, where there is fantastic culture, where there is unique programs and so forth. And you know, when they come, and this again, don't record it, when they come here, you ensure that they don't necessarily go back. They use their knowledge here. So ensure, if it is ladies who have come here, ensure that there are young men around. If it's vice versa, then you have vice versa around, and so forth, so that we ensure that we are bringing people on board. Internationalization is extremely important. And to me, the only way you can do it is have attractive academic programs that the world will be looking at. Next. I will go very quickly on this one, because please, as we think of our educational system, as we think about universities, let's think of the instruments, the policies that guide us. And among them is the Constitution. Here I have just taken a few. I would recommend that please, as a university community, please integrate Article 10 of the Constitution. It talks about values. Values. What is it about us that makes us unique and different? Values. But Article 11, by the way, you know the Constitution has a lot of articles. The ones that come earlier are more important than the ones that come later. So when you say Article 11, it is very important. It says that culture is the collective and cumulative civilization of the people of Kenya. Our culture. How many of our universities ensure that they inculcate our culture in the education system? The Constitution says the state shall promote national and cultural expressions through literature, arts, science, libraries, and so forth. Am I making some sense? Please think about it. Which institution, which organ in Kenya can best promote national cultural expression through literature, art, science, and libraries? It is the universities. So, on an annual basis, you ask them, what have we done to do this? But the one I like most is this one, and I will read it slowly. Recognize the role of science and indigenous technologies in the development of the nation. That is not Munavu speaking. That is our constitution. It is the one that says, recognize the role of science and indigenous technologies in the development of the country. Which organ is best suited to do this? It is our universities, both public and private. Very important. And finally, promote intellectual property rights of the people. We have a lot of intellectual property rights which are not protected. People just come here, take things and disappear. They use them. We don't benefit, and so forth. Artifacts even have been taken from this country and they are put in Smithsonian Institute, Kew Gardens for plants which are unique for this country. For your information, even some of the drugs that we use, if you can write it, write vincristin, and vinblastin. You know them, huh? You know where they come from originally. The plant, yeah. And the plant just grows here in Kenya. If you go to Cabernet, how many of you have been to Cabernet? Okay, nobody. How many of you? Yeah. When you go from Cabernet, you are going to Kerio Valley, hiyo valley yote. Kwa hiyo, unaona, this flower, it's called Catharanthus roseus. Okay? And you take the roots, chew, childhood leukemia gone. Okay? Now, it is here. It has been taken. Who is benefiting? Other people, not us. Our universities need to really begin to look at this. And you can even do a tracer study. Find out, madam. Let's find out. Do it, don't do it alone as a university. Join together all the VCs and let's find out what has been taken out of this country. You can include the museum to work with. What has been taken out of this country? Plants and so on. And then we now be bold enough and say, we want our things back. Some countries in West Africa now are beginning to say, we want repatriation. How many of you are lawyers here? By training? Oh, you don't have a learned friend, eh? Yeah, we need your, yours, eh? In Parklands. Yeah, I understand. She's very protective of Kenyatta University. Yeah, that is okay. I don't need to spend time on this. This is very clear. Next. This is also very clear. And this is, let me just read this because it's very important. It touches on what I was saying. The citizens have the basic right to a clean and healthy environment, including protection of the environment for the benefit of present and future generations. So anything that we do, don't say it is for our benefit, no. It is us as a nation, us and our future DNAs as they come on board. Next. Now, I'm just about to end. Yeah, I was told 6 minutes. I will try to comply. But these are very useful statistics that I want you to reflect on. And it's on the basis of this that we must reimagine our universities. And listen, for UK, US, Canada, by 2030, the population is shrinking. in those countries. Japan will move from 128 million to between about 100 million by the next 2 to 3 years. Europe's population will shrink to 7% of the world population by 2050. India's working age population also is projected to move up a little bit. But the fourth bullet, the population of sub-Saharan Africa will increase. From the current, I think these figures I was using 2030 as a base, but there could be some slight changes. 900 million to 1.4, say 1.6 billion by 2030. That is Africa. So when you look globally, the place where populations are going to be raising, and this is not me, this is in the public domain, it will be in Africa. And you notice Kenya, the population of Kenya has grown from 7 million when we were getting independence in 1963 to about 51 million and so on. 7% increase within 57 years. So you can use that mathematics and statistics and project what our population will be. So, the population in Africa is going to increase. That's point number one. It is estimated that over 25% of youth, world's youth, this is below 25 years. I think in Kenya the definition is different, slightly different, but 25 years, whether it is 30 or 35, will be living in sub-Saharan Africa. Every one of 4 children born will be in Africa. The growing population, this is now the benefit. The growing population is a source of talent and energy to be harnessed in development if only they are properly educated and skilled. They will move to other countries to provide services, but they can only do that if they are properly educated. This, to me, is the major opportunity for Africa. And that opportunity is anchored in our educational systems, ecosystems. That is anchored. That opportunity will be anchored in our universities. So when we think of our universities, let's look at our universities, let's thumb our chest and be proud, because they are trying to ensure that our future is bright. Next. I think this one, let's move on forward. Now, this is reimagining. Let me just summarize. And here I'm just calling them capitalization strategies. Don't worry about the terminology that I use because it can change. I have mentioned about university-industry collaboration. That to me is important. Linking university research to the needs of industry. That is important. So that when universities are determining their vision, mission, and so on, they should not forget this. Establish national technoparks and regional incubation centers at county levels. That to me is an issue which is important. And there is no reason, although you may be based in a particular region close to the capital city, but who tells you that you cannot go to Turkana and have a KU technopark anchored at Turkana? Nobody. You can do it. Okay? But if I were you, I would think of Marsabit. Marsabit is very nice. Eh? How many of you have ever been in Marsabit? You know there is a place there, a mountain, where there is a lake on top of the mountain called Lake Paradise. So please, if you ever get an opportunity to go for holidays, don't be going to America, Paraguay, and so forth. Just go to Marsabit. You'll be very surprised. That area is beautiful, you know, and so on. During Second World War, a lot of people are buried there. The cemeteries are well sequestered. You can eat any food that you need. It's a beautiful country. Okay? I will not tell you more. But you can talk to me, if you want. I think, bullet number 4 is important. And this is where now the universities should begin the process. Develop policies which will induce industries to invest in universities. And in my view, target 50% of research investment by 2030. What I mean is this. We keep thinking that the main source of resources for universities is the exchequer, mwenye pesa. Kenyatta used to say there are people who go to the coast, they sit under the coconut tree and they wait for the coconut to fall. Universities should not just be sitting and waiting for pesa kuanguka kutoka kwa mawingu. No. I think we need now to begin to persuade the private sector to invest in research. And in my view, 50% of what we spend in research should come from the private sector. Next. This I think I have indicated, and I have met the 15%. Facilitate universities to undertake this. This I have also indicated. I'm now summarizing, and also internationalization. Next. Facilitate universities to undertake research and develop ways to integrate peace and security education in the university curriculum. Peace. Value-based education. Peaceful. Happiness. By the way, we can also do a happiness index in our universities, over 70 universities. Let's do a happiness index. How many of the staff in all our universities can say, I'm happy, we are happy? No, I'm serious. And we don't want to wait for people from outside to do it. Let's just do it ourselves. And then we say, what can we do to improve it? What about our students? How many of them are happy with the university they have joined, and so forth, and what can be done? Next. That I have indicated, the needs of business. Next. This is, forgive me, but this is, it's like personal a little bit, kidogo. But I am very passionate about indigenous technologies. You know, the way I've been talking is like, when you want new knowledge, you do research. But that is wrong. When you want new knowledge, don't just do research. Find out, if I want to find an answer to this, how did other countries do it? How did other communities do it? How did our ancestors do it? That's Article 11 of the Constitution. Indigenous knowledge, indigenous technologies. And UNESCO and other international bodies support this idea of indigenous knowledge. And I say, in my view, food, issues of architecture, issues of architecture. Where we are now, I say, if I was to ask you, which architecture is this? Does it have local input? Perhaps. Maybe Masai, kidogo. Lakini ile iko namna hii, ni ya watu wengine, sitakwambia. And so forth. So architecture, food, you don't want to go back? I hear AI is taking over, so we should have that lady should be AI. So, okay, natural resources, culture. Yes, madam, we are moving on. We are just about there. And for you, for those of you, returns on investment, that's okay. Strategize on, by the way, Professor, you remember this issue? Who was telling us about stones and so forth? Yeah, natural resource processing, and strategize on how to retain graduates. Go and Google, find out how many researchers, how many scientists from Kenya are out there helping other communities, you'll be surprised. You may have traffic problems in Nairobi. In London, you don't. And you know why? Because the engineer is Otieno. He's a Kenyan. Okay? Here, you go to a bar. I don't do it often. Let me have a declaration. But periodically, I may go and I ask for the Pilsner and so forth. The only reason I ask for that is because I used to work for breweries in 1965. And you know what Pilsner meant. But you know the beer called Pilsner. The name was People in Love Should Never Entertain Rocks. Pilsner. Okay? So, but now, if I go to that bar and there is no Pilsner, I say, give me Moratina. You think I will get it? No. But in UK, ukienda huko, nasema, do you have Moratina? Oh, you mean the Kenyan drink? Yes, iko. And you pay double the price. Okay? So this is something that we all need to think about. Attract Kenyan graduates from foreign institutions to come on board. And also, madam, the issue of our universities capitalizing on the diaspora. You have a lot of universities. I bumped into, a few weeks ago, into a professor from called Henry, from the US, but he's from Nigeria. Okay? But he's here. He comes to Africa once a year, moves around, gives lectures, and then moves back. Please, how many of our professors out there can we bring on board to come and engage with us and even walk around and engage with and give them a specific jacket, you know, the one that the police use, the light and the border, but you simply say it is a diaspora border apple. So when he's walking around or she's walking around, the students will be saying, which university? From whatever. But they engage. That is something to think about. Next. Please, if we want to have a secure environment where there is quality food, health, water, sanitation, jobs, housing, and so forth, within the next 30 years, we must, therefore, ensure that the impact of higher education, the impact of culture and research should be entrenched in our national policies, be gender mainstreamed, and ensure that at least 3% of our GDP is allocated for research, and that of that money that we focus for research, at least 50% goes to the university's ecosystem, because that is where most of the new knowledge is generated. We say universities should be empowered to train, not for the challenges we meet today, but for future skills, and to provide training on emerging technologies. And finally, for the universities moving forward, madam, let's not just be educating youth, educating young people. There is something I saw when we were driving here. You have a faculty of education and lifelong learning. Now, if I ask you, what does lifelong learning mean? I haven't in Kenya seen a place where I would sit with some guys, my age, retired, and we say, let's go and listen to this lecture, let's go and do this. And we have this homework, what do you think? How did you think? And so on. Please, as universities, let's be creative. Education never ends. And the more people we are having retiring, let's not be fighting. Let's say you are not retired for life. You are not retired from life. You are retired from a particular institution, but you are still alive. You can still do a lot for this country. And let's keep on learning. And KU can drive that process. Lifelong education. I want to thank all of you. If I will show 3 slides, 1 minute, And if you want them, then you can give me a call. Next. This one is very private, but I will share with you later on if you are interested. It simply shows that you begin with what you have, natural resources, then you put knowledge, then you put processes and energy, you produce goods and services, and you produce byproducts at the end. And quite often we dump these byproducts into rivers and so forth when we shouldn't. What I should do, and I have given this quiz to some students in CBC, and madam, one student got it right. He said, why are you putting byproducts there? What is going to happen with the byproducts? Why not put a cycle and bring it back to natural resources? Wow. And this was a 12-year-old. Unaiweka hapo kwa nini? Si uipeleke iwe natural resource mara nyingine. Next. These are sectors that, in my view, the universities need to begin to focus on. Development areas. Chakula, energy, health, next. Maji, knowledge, domain. Na hii, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Please find a way. Let's find a way as universities. The micro, small, and medium enterprises are the greatest employer of people seeking jobs. Let's ask ourselves, how can we engage with MSMEs to create employment and to transform the economy of this country? Next. Ai, mwisho. Asante sana, God bless all of you.
Thank you very much. May I request us all to be upstanding so that we can give Professor a nice round of applause of appreciation for the wonderful lecture we've just had. And this is what happens when you give our musicians the microphone. We shall clap in rhythm. Let's warm up our hands first. Let's warm them up. I shall mouth a rhythm and you clap back. Let us try this. This is example. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Now we have practiced. Now let us clap for Professor. Are we ready? Ta, 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 ta. Louder. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Ta, 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 ta. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to welcome my dean, Professor Minja, Executive Dean, School of Law, Arts and Social Sciences, to moderate for us the next session where we shall have question and answers. We shall have questions here physically, and we shall also request those who are joining us online to also put your questions on the chat, and we shall be able to get 1 or 2 or 3 of them depending on time permitting. But also, if you have a burning question and you're online, you can also raise your hand, your electronic hand, and we shall be able to pick 1 or 2 questions online. So at this point, I shall hand over the program to Professor Minja to handle the question and answer session. Karibu sana, Prof.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you, our guest speaker, VC and management, and ladies and gentlemen. I must confess that this lecture has been very insightful, very thought-provoking, as well as challenging to us. Many things have been said in this lecture, and I don't want to repeat a lot of what he has said, but he started by telling us to have a reflection. We reflect on the future of education in this country. That was his starting point. What kind of a future do we want, and how do we define it as a university? And he has explained in details how we could actually define that as a university in order to create a positive transformation of people's lives. Very interesting for me was the relationship between education and longevity. And I was trying, I almost asked him a question, you mean if I spend more years in school, I'll live longer? But facts are there. The fact that the countries that have had people who have taken longer in school also have a higher quality of life as well as living longer. So I don't want to go into much of the details of what he has said because I've taken notes and I can do quite a bit of it. But recall this also. He talked about the role of governance and values. I want to pick that up because I was sharing with the prof and I was telling him yesterday I was in another conference, I was in another public lecture that was organized by the National Intelligence Service. And after all the presentations were done, the conclusion was, if we are to attain the development that we desire, whether in security or in national development, the role of governance and values is very key. And that is what Prof has actually concluded, even when he was speaking to us. So it's still a challenge, and I think this is now a national discourse. Where do we place values and governance and leadership? And are we governing the way we ought to? Just 2 days ago, we had a public debate here in this university on national values and principles of governance. And again, the guest speaker stressed the same thing that is being stressed in very many fora in this country. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to now open this session for questions, both to those who are online and also those that are seated here in this forum. And so what I'll do is that we'll pick like 3 or 4 questions here. Then I'll open it up to the people who are online. We'll give them a chance. The media people will assist us to pick those questions. So people online, you could perhaps start posting your questions on the chat, and then from there, we can actually pick them. After that, I'll also give a chance to some of our guests that are with us online, CEO, CUE, and other CEOs and vice chancellors also who are present online. I'll give them a chance either to make a contribution or to ask questions. So let's start. We'll have 2 questions from this side and 2 questions on my left. We'll start that way. Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Munafu, for a very inspiring lecture, because it has taken me back to think very deeply that when I engage my village, which I do very regularly, and driving my car and see young girls and women walking kilometers to fetch water. That life is not sustainable at all. And you have challenged me that I should contribute to better their lives at the university as a scientist and as a scholar. I take the challenge. But I am here. And this question has come to me even at that time. That what is it that I'm not doing right? What is it as Matthew that I am not doing right to improve this life, because I have walked that journey and it pains me they are still walking it. And I'm at a position where I should contribute, and I have made my efforts. And so I think the challenge that comes, and it's not a question, the challenge that comes to me and us is that we should be deliberate now. We should be deliberate and intentional in ensuring that third pillar of our mandate, the community service, community outreach, that after we have gained education and become very good researchers with very good research outputs, I think we should be very deliberate now and ensure that our society lives sustainably. I am very challenged. Thank you.
Yeah, Prof, I think that was an observation, and it's a good observation. Yeah, question at the back.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that. I am Jacob Omolo. The lecture was very good, and the issues that you raised are very critical. But my concern is that why aren't we doing these things that we already know we should be doing? Which is this bug that needs to bite us as a community and even as a country, so that we can focus on doing and less of talking. Thank you.
Okay, this side. So just, if it's a question, just go straight to the question. If it's a comment, just go straight to the comment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Professor, for the wonderful presentation you have presented. I'd like to first thank the entire team that is here. For me, I'm an undergraduate currently pursuing environmental science, and I'd like to thank you guys for ensuring for our students we have everything that we need. I think Kenyatta University is the only university whereby for us as students we can do quite nice research. Now, my question on research, I'm currently developing a system for tracking biodiversity using artificial intelligence, but the big hindrance that I'm getting is, where am I going to get like the resources? Where am I going to get somebody to assess my proposal? Where am I going to get somebody who can give me more information about artificial intelligence? And everyone who I need is actually in this room. So my question to you, Professor, is how can we get, or is there any platform for integration of research in that an undergraduate can collaborate with a professor in doing a research? Because we are talking about a future of higher education in Kenya, and I think collaboration was the main message for today. How or is there a platform whereby everybody, any kind of staff or any kind of student can collaborate or identify each other or like meet up so that they can finish up on a project or they can complete a project? Thank you.
Very good question from that student. Prof, and one more before
Thank
Prof
you.
responds.
Thank you so much for the lecture today. It was so insightful. My question for you, Professor, is you talked about integrating what the graduates, what we are learning here in school, with what we want to innovate and bring out to our nation. So is it possible for particularly Kenyatta University to have a model where we can implement what we are doing in class as part of assessment of our degrees? For example, I'm doing public policy and administration. I can have an idea in terms of something to do with the energy space, something to do with education, like what we are discussing today. Can I have a system or a model in class where if I'm taking a unit on educational policy, I can have practical execution of what I am studying?
Good question. Okay, Prof, maybe you could respond to those first.
Yeah, thank you very much for those comments and some questions. I like the last question. And that to me makes me think. When we, as a university, we say, let's have community engagement as part of our mandate, what does that mean? Listen, we as a university, is it KU or is it all of us who make the university? We have an obligation as students and as staff, and in my view, both administrative and academic, when that mandate is given to the university, the definition of the university is you and I. It is not KU there with the logo, no. It is all of us. And therefore, the issue of engagement, in my view, with the community is extremely important, is vital. And how one engages, there is a particular level. You reach a particular level where you are engaging as colleagues. They call it peer-to-peer. You're just about the same level, so you give advice, you play around and so on, play games. Then you go to another level. And this is communally also in our culture. You are now expected to mentor. You are supposed to give advice. You are supposed to show direction. The community, individuals who are below you in ranking, need to feel that there is this person, there is this individual that can assist me with this thing. Nothing to do with money, but life, ideas. I think as a country, this is something we need to reflect on. That when you are in a university, you teach, but you are supposed to provide support to the community. You are supposed to mentor young people. And in my view, this mentoring needs to be also inculcated within our ongoing, transformation, gadgets, computers, and so forth. The lady is raising a very important question. That how many of us in the university do you receive mail from students asking you issues or ideas that you can react? And how many of us, when you receive, do you react? Madam, I think as we move forward as a country, let's now begin to transform ourselves, and if we can begin to engage, not only in my time, we used to be required at University of Nairobi that on your door, where they put, if you are an office, you have put your name there, Dr. So-and-so, consultation period, 4 hours a week, you indicate the hours and so forth. And I think what we are now saying is it is no longer like that. It should be continuous engagement. It should be continuous learning, continuous mentoring, continuous teaching, and continuous lecturing. That to me is extremely important. How do you engage with the community? There are different ways. As at a very senior level, it is just engaging with the groups within your community. It is sharing ideas. It is participating in groups. It's not like when you have groups that are harvesting coffee and you say, me, I'm not part of that Mbilini Farmers Cooperative Society. That's mine, where I come from, my village. And now you have reminded me, I think I need to pass by and find out how they are doing because I don't do that. So we need to be able to do that. I think young people in our universities need also to begin to engage with the youth at primary, early childhood, and so forth. I remember some universities in the US, you cannot graduate unless you have spent at least 3 months within the community. If it's a farming community, if it's a family that is grazing gazelles, you spend at least 3 months there and try to live like them, understand them, and you are graded. Here, do we do that? These are things that we need to begin to reflect on, and we need to be bold as we move forward. So the issue of do we know what to do? I think that requires stakeholder engagement. Our senates could perhaps reflect on that and ask ourselves, what do we, when we say community engagement, what do we mean? How can we do it? How is it measured? And so forth. And it's not just a question of, I'm a board member of this primary school or whatever. No, it's deeper than that. How do you impact on the lives of the people? Not only where you come from, but also in other regions, in other communities. And I agree with you that maybe we are talking too much. We should now begin to do. So if we can form some group, VCs, or even at the university level, and you just ask ourselves in the Senate and departmental input, what does community engagement mean? And how do we do it? And how can you be measured and assessed on whether you have attained your limit? I think the issue of also student collaborating, this is something to think about. When you were talking, I was just thinking, do we have a way in which, for example, a KU student can do a 3rd or 4th year project with a professor at Moi University? Do you have that system? The student is at KU. Can that student do a project with somebody at JQuat? Do you have that? No, you don't. Yeah. So I'm just raising it because you triggered my mind. Okay? So that this is something, and this is done in the US, by the way. In the US, you can be in University A, and then when you are doing your 3rd year project for 3 months, you can go to University B. But that means that this University A and B have reciprocal arrangement, okay, sharing. They can move there, and even lecturers can move there and so forth. So collaboration amongst ourselves, I think, is very important. But I like the views from the younger guys. Thank you very much.
I have been granted permission by the chief guest to also weigh in. I think in terms of the student who is doing something to do with AI and whether you can collaborate with others, I think your direct contact, the one who is supporting you in developing the concept, will be able to walk with you and identify whether there is expertise within, and if not, he or she should be able to connect you with expertise outside so that he becomes the nexus, okay? But in these days of internet, everything is possible, even getting support from outside, because we are optimizing on technology now, okay? Then to the student who asked about having a model, in this university we have tried our best to integrate practical exposure so that you're not just handling theory. And for every program, after the 3rd year of your study, you have an opportunity to go for 3 months and do internship. And for some of the programs, like those in health sciences, Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, they also have 1 year internship, including pharmacy. But we have integrated 3 months, up to 12 weeks, where students can actually go on attachment. So that is very, very important. That is something that we have integrated. Now, there are some programs like public policy, and I'm glad that the one actually facilitating this particular session, question session, was actually the former head of the Department of Public Policy. And I want to say that this is one of the programs, our chief guest, that we introduced about 6 years ago, because of the gaps that we identified, not just within the university, but also in government, and particularly more so when the county governments were established. So I know, I did pick your name, young lady, Rachel. Engage with him and see how that can be introduced, because I know, like some programs, they actually have applications that have models that exposes them to whatever. And I know they have that in economics, I'm sure. And then in terms of, in addition to what the chief guest has talked about, I think in 4 years ago, we introduced a university-wide unit called community service learning. Community service learning, and that is supposed to be taken by all the departments. Is coordinated by the Department of Gender. I don't know whether the chairman is here, so that is available. And really, what this is meant to give is to help combine classroom learning with real world community service. You know, so that you allow the students, even in their own localities, to be able to identify the problem and be able to provide solution at that level with the support of their mentors. And also we have in this university platforms that we have created that allows our own students to engage with community. We have discipline-based clubs and associations. When I was at Dean School of Agriculture, we initiated the Kenyatta University Association of Students in Agriculture. And we would every year identify a county or an area based on the mapping done by the students and carry out a project that they can actually build on even after they leave. And that is happening. I think yesterday we had the 7th symposium for students in economics. So that is what we are really encouraging. Okay. We have both platforms so that the students can come in and really optimize to touch community. Then I think 5 years ago, we introduced the Vice Chancellor's Award for Innovation, specifically for students. And in this, and the DVC is here together with the registrar, we support the students who have come with innovative, collaborative ideas. And I am sure you know we had the TIB event, where you had a collaboration between the students in the School of Engineering, School of Education, and School of Social Sciences. So we are doing a lot of that. But going back to what, and going back now to what Dr. Omoro asked, many of the things that are said have been said before. Why aren't we doing it? And I want to say that in our strategic plan, when we did the current one, 2023-2024, and we launched it in June, in that strategic plan, we have been able to identify areas that we are not doing very well. And we have a strategy to be able to help us deal with those gaps that we identified. And you will note that in the implementation matrix, we have very, very specific persons or offices which are supposed to be dealing with very, very specific issues. That said and done, Chief Guest, I would like you to elaborate a little more so that I don't come back. You talked about knowledge capitalization strategies. Are we doing well? And what is this 1, 2, 3 things that we should do to actually capitalize knowledge? Because generation of knowledge is one of those unique attributes that we have in the university, and how can we capitalize that? And I'm asking you this, I know you talked about a few of them, but you have in this space for long. Why isn't it working? What is it that we can do? Thank you.
Professor? You can respond to.
Are there a few others?
the others, the people online, let's have
If there is.
about 3 to 4 questions. Dr. Wambugu, you can read them out.
Thank you. We have some people who have raised their hands. So we have Patrick. If Patrick is ready to ask his question, but we also have 3 questions that we also have online that we can put on so that we can ask the questions.
Yes.
Yes, this is Patrick.
This is Patrick. I'm Dr. Patrick Bartalo, the Chairman, Public Policy and Administration. And thank you so much, Professor Munaf, for this wonderful presentation, very insightful. My question, what is the future of university education with now emerging
We seem to have lost him.
Maybe
So
we can go to the questions, the typed questions, as we try to
Yeah.
raise Dr. Bataru again.
yes, so let's have the typed ones.
So we have Dr. Linda Kimensu. Thank you for this very informative. What are your thoughts about making mathematics optional in our senior secondary schools as relates to the skills needed in the 21st century? The second question that we have is from Philemon Yegon, who is asking, my concern is on bureaucracy. As Prof mentioned, India, some innovations like 3-wheeler vehicles with speed less than 30 kilometers are not exposed to a lot of bureaucracies. Digitization of services is another factor that encourages innovation. Balancing a thin line between brainwashing and sending our graduates outside the country for knowledge purposes, utilize local materials and reduce copy pasting. I don't know what the question there would be. Maybe it was just a comment. Professor Paul Mbugwa, the question of inclusivity is also very critical as we endeavor to move with everyone. How do we move from here on gender parity and persons with disabilities inclusion in our development agenda? Maybe we can take those ones for now. Thank you.
Professor, you could respond to those ones.
Yeah, I think with regard to the knowledge capitalization strategy, and I think the VC has given an indication, what happens is, in my view, we are focused too much on, for example, publications. So that if I ask you what criteria do you need, if you are, what criteria for promotion and so on, it is publications and so on, and citations and so forth and so on. Maybe we need to reflect on that and say, is there a way in which we can capitalize on, for example, ensuring that at Kenyatta we have a knowledge capitalization office? Do you have an office where before anybody publishes a research output, that is, first of all, assessed by the Knowledge Capitalization Office to determine if it has got commercial potential. If it is commercially potential, you patent it. You don't publish it. This is, I'm just talking, so forgive me. And it is not just the products, it is also services, because you can also patent and protect services that you can deliver. Things that are unique. You can also capitalize on attire. I see an attire with the lady here. I see an attire with a gentleman right next to her. I don't know why they are sitting next to each other, but nevertheless, The question is, if I ask, is what you are wearing, that attire, is it protected by patent? Can I take a photo and just go and produce it? Perhaps yes, I can, because you haven't protected it, and so forth. So let's reflect on it. I think, madam, that issue of capitalization of knowledge is, what do you use, do you do to protect it? It's like an asset. It's like your land. It's like your bank account. And you don't expose it to everybody. Unaelewa? So please, that is something that you can think about. I like the idea of community service learning, and that is something to reflect on. The future of university education with issues that may be arising and the challenges, by Patrick. He didn't finish the question, but challenges are always there. But don't look at challenges as just challenges to prevent you from doing anywhere. They are opening your mind. You understand the problems, then you ask yourself, how do you solve these problems? And quite often, there are institutions that in some time in the past, we used to have boxes that we used to place everywhere within the campus. When you have ideas, suggestion boxes, you put boxes. Think of boxes where you are calling them ideas boxes, but we can think of a good name, so that you have a box somewhere. If you have an idea or a proposal that is unique, that is where you take it, and so forth. So it is doable that we can have a university or universities that are innovative. There may be challenges. Challenges will always be there. What innovation comes on board is, how do you handle the challenges? If we say universities have issues with governance, what do we mean? And how do we handle it? Universities in Kenya are facing some challenges. I'm saying some challenges with regard to funding. Isn't it an opportunity for all of us to sit, not necessarily alone, but alone within yourself, but also in consultation with others, and ask ourselves, how do we move forward? How have others done it? And so forth. There is a university called Stanford University. The actual name is Leyland Stanford Jr. University. I think Stanford was a senator, and then he lost his son, Leyland Stanford Jr. And so he now bequeathed his wealth to the university. I wish a few of us in Kenya can begin to think like that. So when he bequeathed, that now is a very outstanding university. It is the one that has really driven the issue of computers and so on. The Silicon Valley is right there. And one of the things that they used to do, I used to visit them many years ago. Actually, I went there in '68. And what surprised me is they bring people on board. Young people, young, 10, 12 years. They take them around. They go in the labs and so on. And now, when they are leaving, they are told, before you leave, write what you saw and write what solution. They were clever. What solution would you give to this problem? I'm talking about young guys. And when it's given, when they leave it, it's analyzed by the professors. And the professors now will look at these ideas and begin to do research on those matters, raised by 12-year-olds. Do we do that in our universities? Reflect on it. That is extremely important to note. Issues of mathematics, I think that is neither here nor there. I think, to me, there are some units, there are some courses that are essential. I think if we want to move forward as a country, we cannot ignore the role of STI, science, technology, innovation. We cannot ignore science, technology, engineering, mathematics, competence, and so forth. That is extremely important. And by the way, it is not mathematics because you are studying sciences. No. Mathematics is everything. When I am alone, I am reflecting. I think about years ago when we used to sell bananas and sugarcane in the local markets and so on. And you saw women who never went to a school. And you would buy sugarcane and they would be able to give you change. They would sell milk and they would be able to determine that if I buy milk in this town at so much, if I bring it here, I will sell it at this much so that I can make a profit. They had numeracy in their minds. We had games in our communities where people were really playing games, but it was just mathematics. So mathematics, in my view, is extremely important, and we should not just be focusing on it as only for sciences. No, it is in every discipline. It's like literacy. You have to be able to read. Whether you are a doctor, whether you are a scientist, whatever it is, whether you are a singer, you are in singing, eh? Yeah, with your clapping and so on. And by the way, what you were doing is mathematics. Did you know that? Yeah, you may not have gotten a D in mathematics at KCSE, but when you were doing it here, I gave you, you exceeded my expectation. Okay? Yeah. Issues of gender, I think, is something that is also obviously important. And those ones with people with disabilities, they are all important. They are essential citizens. What we need to do as a university is ensure that we have sufficient facilities for even people with disabilities. Do you have hostels specifically for people with disabilities? Students with disabilities? Staff with disabilities? The largest?
The highest number of students with disabilities.
Oh.
Yes.
Then we should give you an award.
Oh, please, can I get it?
If it was during Moi time, I would just go in the pocket and bring something over. Yeah, so you have, eh?
And in fact...
and you offer, do you offer education for...
We have special needs. We have
special education.
We have a department of early childhood and special needs. We have a fully fledged directorate of disabilities.
Ah, then you are
we
okay.
have reviewed our infrastructure so that we have created labs, and we continue to do that even for the existing departments. And we just don't have students with disability, physical disabilities, even the blind.
Okay.
We have them here, the deaf, we have them here. And we have also made sure that our library has a very special section that supports people with disability. We also have translators. We also have students who literally support each student if there is need. So specialized need. We also have, our university is very big, so we have provided internal transport system so that if a student wants to move from lecture A to lecture B, they don't have to walk.
Okay.
They actually get into that. And we are very particular about that. In fact, for many years, if students with disability were admitted in other universities, the universities would say, no, let them transfer to Kenyatta University. But since then, I think the ministry has also put its foot down so that also other universities can develop the infrastructure.
That is very
What we'll be asking in place of the bahasha that you would have given us is to lobby for us that we get additional support because we have the largest number of students so that we can continue to improve our infrastructure and continue to invest in the assistive technologies to support our students very adequately. Thank you. And in fact, last week, we had a celebration of National Disability Day, and we had the director in charge of special education within the ministry actually as our chief guest. Thank you.
Yeah, that is something that we can explore because I think it's important. The other thing is, and you know, this is just discussion. The other thing is, when students come here, if you have a third-year student, and that student has a problem, is there a dedicated member of staff that student can approach? Do you have dedicated student advisors? The terminology can change. I'm thinking of lecturers or professors who are there, and each professor has about 100 students, not the ones you teach, but the ones you mentor. They have your contact, they can call you, they can raise issues, and so forth. You have that? Then you guys are okay.
Chief guest.
You are the university of the future then. Already.
The premier university. And we are the #1 university, the premier university. You can now understand why it was not a hoax. Just to respond to what you have said, or what you have asked, we have a very strong mentoring program in this university. When our students come here, they are assigned to staff mentors. I served as a mentor for 6 years until I started getting into these very, very busy administrative roles. And that works. We also have peer mentors, student, those who have gone before them. Then in terms of the academic, we have the academic advisors. For some schools, they actually allocate an advisor who works with the students from year 1 until they finish. For others, they have a student advisor for every year. And then we have also student reps, student representatives for each of the unit who will give feedback to the chair of the department as to the ongoings in the classroom. And in terms of mentor for staff and student, we have a wellness center that we have now linked to our health unit to better support the Kenyatta University community. I think I can't enumerate more because there are more that we have done.
No, this is very impressive.
We have said, chief guest, that we consider our approach is our glass is half full, so not half empty. And our commitment to continuous improvement, I think, is outstanding.
No, this is fantastic. Yeah, you are very lucky. You know, this mentoring, the things I remember, there are 2 things I remember, and forgive me, in terms of student mentorship. One is I used to have a mentor way back in 1967 up to 70. And this mentor of mine, although I was doing science, he was in philosophy and religious education. And the interesting thing was that each semester, each quarter, you know, he would invite us as students, and we would go to his house to have dinner, and they would prepare dinner with his wife, and we would talk, and so on and so forth. At the end of the year, when we are just about to graduate, when we have been allowed to graduate, then he would take us to the bar. His wife wouldn't be there then. So he would take us to the bar, and the ones who are graduating, we would sit, drink, and relax, and so on. Not necessarily beer, but we were in that situation. The reason was, he was telling us, now you have matured. Now you have matured. Now you are going to the world, and I am showing you the direction. Very important.
Thank you, Prof. Now I want to take this opportunity to invite the CEO of Commission for University Education, Professor Mike Kuria. He is with us online to ask his question. Prof, welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor Minja. First, I just want to really appreciate the presentation by Professor Mnavu I have actually two things I want to do. One, I want to make a comment, and then I want to ask a question. I had already written them on the chat, but let me articulate them. First of all, I want to comment on the question of internationalization. I really think that was spot on. It's something that we all must focus on. And indeed, I want to explain that I would have wanted to be in the audience this afternoon and the morning, but I am here in Naivasha because we are actually focused on that idea of internationalization. We are trying to develop a policy framework for internationalization of higher education in Kenya, and we are working with the British Council to develop that. And that is why I am not in the audience today. So I really think it is important. We have 79 universities in Kenya. We have 600,000 students, but less than 5,000 international students. I think that's not acceptable, especially if you look at the ecosystem in which we are living and the kind of countries that surround us who need education. Then we are having only 5,000, it's too small, and I think we should do many things. Some of the ideas that you have raised, Prof, we are going to pick them up and see whether they can find themselves in the policy framework that we are proposing. So that's my comment. My question. You led the Presidential Working Party on education reforms in Kenya. You made some excellent recommendations. We had begun implementing some of these recommendations. You must be aware that a session of paper had been drafted. Some legal instrument has started being revised. And even some of the institutions like the Commission for University Education, we had begun to implement some of those recommendations. But suddenly now there are many other reforms also coming in. So here is my question. Are we sometimes subjecting our universities to too many changes? And I know that we are living in an environment which is defined as VUCA, is volatile, is uncertain, is complex, is ambiguous, changing all the time. But however, are we sometimes subjecting our universities to a constant state of flux or change or instability? How can we, the question I have, how can we create maybe a better link between the higher education ecosystem and the political ecosystem so that our universities can prepare for the future better? How can we do that? Chair, I submit.
Prof, respond to that.
Yeah, I think Kuria nimeshukuru. I like the figures that you are mentioning about the number of students we have in universities and the percent or the number that are from international countries, cross-border countries. And my view immediately is, please, as Commission for University Education, give us the figures of how many of our students, because you have told us the students coming into Kenya, the numbers. Tell us how many of our students finish high school here and then go to universities abroad. Let's get that figure right. Then we say, if we have 1% of our young people going to study abroad, then we now say, let's use that figure now to rationalize the figure that we should bring on board. So that we say, if it is 10%, we say this is a target that all of us need to meet to move forward. With regard to various recommendations and so on, remember, recommendations are recommendations. The recommendations must be implemented, and there has to be an acceptable way of implementing. It has to be within a legal framework. It has to be within policies that are there. So the recommendations we came up with, number one, we ensured that we engage with all the stakeholders. We engaged with stakeholders from the counties, from the universities, and our team had even vice chancellors from our public universities So the recommendations we made were, in our view, and with the evidence available to us, realistic as we move the university sector or ecosystem forward. Now, the implementation is never easy. Sometimes you require resources. Sometimes you don't have people with sufficient skills to do it. And that is, we need to understand that. This is something that we need to study as we move forward. Sometimes you also need policies. They say you have made this, but there is no policy, so we don't know how to do it. So these are things that we need to do. In my view, I think the university system, ecosystem in this country is so critical for the future development of this country, Kenya, as well as the region. And therefore, let us be bold as universities. Things are never going to be easy. If we say that we don't want things to be difficult, then nothing will ever be done. So we learn in physics, if I recall right, that we used to say for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. So anything you make recommendation, there will be issues of people who say, oh, this has challenge, this has a problem, fine. But when you mention the problem, tell us, how do you think? Then we can fix it. How do you think we can solve it? Universities are very important. They are the domain upon which our development as a country will move forward, our contribution internationally, and also to ensure that the culture of our society is maintained effectively. Let us exploit it. Let us look at the opportunities and focus on the opportunities as we move forward. So that is my recommendation, and I think the Commission, you have a responsibility to ensure that these things are facilitated. The challenges we have with regard to governance are issues that we can consult and sort out. Challenges with regard to resource mobilization, there are things we can do, and let's not fear. Let's have, and what you need to do, Korea, is on an annual basis, please have a university-wide annual meeting. You can call it coffee table. Let's have coffee as vice chancellors, but also a few other people, so that we ask ourselves, how do we move forward as a country? We have a lot of responsibilities on us, but the challenges are there, and you don't look at the easy option, because the easy option is not going to sort you out. If you are walking, and if you always walk at the path where everybody has passed, clean and so forth, your life is not going to be okay. Please, as you walk in the forest and you see a path which many people have not walked in, say, let me try this. It may take me to a place where there is some hidden gold. Okay? If any of you have ever read a book called The Alchemist, how many of you have read that book, The Alchemist? By Paulo Coelho. Please, if you haven't, read it. It will show you that you can go various paths and so on. Then you discover, I have been thinking it's a problem. Kumbe, it is just here with me, my solution. So please, let's move forward and focus on the opportunities that we have. Let's share ideas on how we can solve the problems that we encounter, and realize that the world is looking at us, and Kenya is looking at us. And all of you people, all of us in university system, we need to know that even that Mamamboga and Boda, they are looking at us. They are saying, what is your idea? What solution do we have? Asante sana.
Thank you. Let's appreciate our chief guest. Ladies and gentlemen, you appreciate the fact that we can move on and on and on. The topic is interesting, but time is not on our side. And in the interest of time, I want to bring this session to a close. And I want to leave with the words of Norman Vincent Peale, because this lecture has been provoking us to think or to change the way we think. And he says the only thing that makes a person distinct from other animals, it is his or her mind. Everything else, you'll get it in a pig or a horse. Thank you very much, and back to you, MC.
Thank you very much, Professor Minja. Let's give Professor another round of applause for leading this session for us very well. We're getting to the end of the program, and before we get to the vote of thanks, I'd like to request Registrar Corporate Affairs to present a gift to our Vice Chancellor, to present it to our chief guest today as a token of our appreciation for the wonderful lecture and wonderful session that we had here this morning and afternoon. Another nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Really, thank you very much. We shall now call upon Professor Richard Odwor, the chair of the planning committee, to pass a vote of thanks. Karibu, Prof.
Dr. Wambugu, thank you so much for the opportunity to give a vote of thanks. And straight away, chief guest, Professor Raphael Munavu, EBS. I think your introduction was ably ventilated to us by the VC. And for that reason, I won't go back there other than to say thank you from Kenyatta University. You helped us define the future of our higher education. You've also helped us to understand the role of our universities in this sustainability venture, and also finally guided us on how to transform the systems for purposes of ensuring that there is sustainability. And above all, you said that we need to be intentional when it comes to collaboration. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. Vice Chancellor, Professor Washeke Wanjohi, it is not just enough to present yourself here, but it's more enough to facilitate the activities behind the scene that have made this particular occasion very important and successful. Ladies and gentlemen, the kind of work that goes behind the scene to see this happen requires very timely and very deliberate support. And we can confirm as a committee that we have absolute, undiluted support from the Vice Chancellor to do this. And thank you so much, Madam VC, for this. We have both physical and online CEOs, led by the CEO for Commission for University Education. Thank you, Prof. Kuria. Thank you for the Vice Chancellor took. Online, of course, University of Nairobi. Thank you so much for your presence. Multimedia University. And of course, NRF, Professor Andala, who is actually an alumnus of this university. And many, many other DVCs and registrars representing their respective universities. We are very grateful, and thank you again for gracing this very important public lecture for us. Asanteni sana. A clap for them. The MB, Management Board of Kenyatta University, represented here by many, many DVCs, and our three Deputy Vice Chancellors are here. And I can confirm to you that the three of them have engaged with this activity directly and indirectly. And in this case, it was direct, because for you to come here, you have received a few communication. And I also know that there were also classes that you were supposed to attend, and you are here officially to sit here and listen to very good discussion that has happened. And from where I sit, thank you, our DVCs, thank you, the registrars, and those who have facilitated this from MB. Please clap for them. Executive deans, I can see all of you, you are here. The senators, chairs of department, and of course our staff, both teaching and non-teaching, our students, thank you, and thank you again. Clap for yourselves. You can notice that we have online participants, and that has been because of the ICT team. And we are here courtesy of also KUCC, and there are leadership within those particular ambits. And for that reason, thank you ICT team and KUCC for giving us this opportunity, following the approval of the Vice Chancellor, to host this activity here. Thank you. Clap for them, please. Dr. Duncan Wambugo, you are the MC for this very important, and you've done amazing job. Clap for this gentleman. Last time I forgot to thank Professor David Minja, because half the time we get this off. And thank you, Professor David Minja. You always do this thing seamlessly, softly, and for that, we are grateful as a committee. Thank you so much. Chaplaincies, this whole debate started, we were persuaded, and we prayed to God, and therefore we have Reverend Esther Wainaina. Thank you from where you are. And of course, we have Dr. Sheikh Abdullahi Bundit. Thank you so much, and clap for those two. The Public Lecture Committee, you know how it started and why we are here. You have worked tirelessly. This is from the appointment of the DVC research, and of course CA office, the Registrar Corporate Affairs from the Vice Chancellor's office. We are grateful, and this, with your permission, Chief Guest, allow me to request them to stand. Please, from where you are, just stand up and we clap for you. Yes, those people who are behind this, clap for them. Asanteni sana, and it's so good that I have that team that I chair in that committee, and it's really amazing to work with them. And finally, just a little bit of an announcement to get to know that these public lectures will be happening twice a year, and we have the support from management, from the Vice Chancellor, and therefore sometimes in October, expect a similar activity. We started with the Chancellor, Ambassador, and now you have just seen the kind of caliber of discussions we are having. Between now up to that time, we will again, with the help of the VC and of course the management and the committee, to pick again another very topical topic for purposes of having very nice public lectures. And again, thank you, my DVC, for giving us the opportunity to run seamlessly. For that reason, and we all have benefited from this, may we do a 3-factorial sort of club for all of us. And this goes in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 1, for purposes of those people who have, you call it chief guest numeracy in the brain. All right, and we will start 1, 2, 3, let's go. Are you suggesting? Thank you, back to the MC.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Professor Odwor, for thanking us. Let's give Professor thanks, a big round of applause as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our public lecture. We shall have a series of photos following this. We shall have the high table, our chief guest, together with the DVCs and members of management, take the photo first, and then they'll be joined by the executive deans, deputy deans, and chairpersons of departments, basically the Senate, for the second photo, and then after that we'll have the participants as well. Unfortunately, we can't take a picture with those online, but I'm sure they will appreciate that we've taken pictures on their behalf. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being patient. We've come to the end, and we shall ask our chief guest, accompanied by the Vice Chancellor and DVCs, they can proceed for the photo session. We can give the chief guest a nice round of applause as he leaves. Really, thank you so much for being with us here today. Really learned a lot. Members of management, executive deans, chairs of departments, deputy deans, and then followed by the participants. That will be the order of photos. Thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon, and God bless you all.